What I think's happened since the pandemic is I think pre-pandemic, most brands had some sort of video strategy and were creating video content. The pandemic happened, and then what I think I've seen since the pandemic is...
Yeah, this could be AI generated in a few years' time.
People are building a relationship with you by watching the content without actually talking to you. Hi and welcome to the Franchise Marketing Show. This is episode 2 of Mark and I just having a chat.
The new format.
The new format. Although I've had lots of very nice feedback from people about the new format. I think looking collectively on stats of people watching and listening and podcasting, I think it was one of our most successful episodes.
Yeah, it's good. It was a good chat as well, I think. And thank you for watching if you were watching. And thank you for feeding back if you were feeding back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
And we're going to develop it further. It's not just going to be you and me chatting. We're going to get other people within Coconut involved and maybe externally from Coconut involved as well. But in-person chats.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why I feel that's so important. I don't know. Right, so today, sorry, I'm totally getting off track already. Today, for anyone watching or listening, we're going to talk about video, just trends you're seeing in video.
Yeah.
You've been out filming with lots of franchise networks over the last months, years, and I think it should be interesting to know what you think's working really well for franchises, what they could be doing more of. I've certainly got some things I think they could be doing more of that would be worth chatting about when it comes to video marketing. But actually, one of those things which I think is a bit of a trend, I don't know if you think, but I think podcast shows, video content in general, all got quite disrupted because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
I've got no basis for this at all. But I kind of feel like pre-pandemic there was... everyone was starting to create lots of video content. People had plans of how to create content. Were doing more video, experimenting with more video. Then the pandemic struck. Everything went online. Everyone was on Zoom all day.
Yeah.
Everyone started creating content on Zoom. And it seemed to change things. Is there any basis for that being factual?
So yeah, I agree with you. Like there were so many franchises like bringing out podcasts, and I can think of a couple off the top of my head without even like researching it that I know that they were doing, and they haven't done since. And there's some that have continued, or some that have like started and done very well since. And it certainly changed. Like my whole workflow changed in the in lockdown within the first week, because I was going out filming all over the country, and then suddenly I was like directing people from my spare room in my house, and then just sort of on Zoom and shooting stuff over Zoom, and shooting stuff on my phone, and then doing live videos. And so we did live Franchise Fest. We did the Mob Show, which was live.
We've done the EWIF Awards live from this room.
Yeah. I did. Yes, another Franchise Awards from this room. I did the Children's Activities Association Awards from this room. And then I had a show called Live Streaming, which is about live video. And then literally, I think the day lockdown ended, it was like, boom, done. And I haven't really done any live events since, and everyone just went back to normal.
Well, I think they did, but I don't think video marketing went back to normal. I think there was a shift post-pandemic. What I think's happened since the pandemic is I think pre-pandemic, most brands had some sort of video strategy and were creating video content. The pandemic happened, and then what I think I've seen since the pandemic is you've got a small group of brands who are now taking it to another level. So they're taking video to the level which probably it should be in the marketing mix now. And some even have their own in-house content creators to document everything. And they're using video incredibly well to build the brand. Then I think everything else has fallen away. I think there's less video being created in general, more being done on video, Zoom, like Zoom calls and things like that. And I think there's like a fatigue around Zoom calls and webinars, which have kind of stopped people creating as much. I don't know. It just
that's kind of like we made the decision to do like in-house and like in-person conversations. Yeah, because I do think people are kind of fed up of just watching a Zoom call.
Yeah, there's definitely been a shift in trend.
Because a lot on Zoom calls, like nobody really comes to my office here for a meeting. I always do over Zoom.
Yeah.
I sometimes go networking in person, and I sometimes do it on Zoom. But yeah, I don't think people want to watch podcasts or like videos where they've shot over Zoom, because they've kind of done that for like 2 years sat in their house.
It does feel like there's a shift.
There's a fatigue.
A shift in trend. But for me, I don't think creating video content has ever been as important as it is now. In the last episode, we obviously chatted about AI, and I mean, who knows where video could go with AI? That's probably another thing we could chat about.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's some stuff where it's like video generation, where I think TV ads in the future, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like the company that make ChatGPT have like a video creation thing that came out at the start of the year. I will put a link in the comments.
Yeah.
And it's just like you type in what you want and it comes up with pretty good like AI video generation. So I think you could generate like a video advert with AI within a year, couple of years. It'd be really interesting to see. So stock footage, I think, will be AI generated. But I do think like there's always going to be a place for like, if you want to show the people that are in the business, if you're like at an event, you want to showcase what happened at that event. I don't think you can generate that with AI, can you? Really?
No. The weird thing is that, like, for me, and this is where does AI start and where does it stop, I think. Like, for me now, video content is more important than ever, because we all go onto LinkedIn and scroll down and just see what is clearly a ChatGPT crafted post.
Yeah.
There seems to be more emojis and lots of bullet points, and it's quite, I don't know why.
It's quite easy to get rid of those.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know. You can just tell if the content is AI generated. For me, at the moment, still video isn't. So if you want to get a message across, it's so much more authentic when you see someone talking to camera, or listening to a conversation, or whatever that may be. So I think video is more important than ever to cut through some of that kind of AI content, which I think people, if they're not immune to it and turned off by it now, there will become a point in time that they are. And it could get to the point in time where written content is, skipped past because people just think it's AI and they want to search out video content. So I think video is more important than ever. But then we're probably not that far away from being able to take our faces and our voices and completely replicate it, and we just type in and this chat could be actually AI.
This could be AI generated in a few years' time, quite easily.
So where does it go from there? Are you ever gonna watch any content or read any content and think it's authentically created by a human?
I'd like to think so, because it's a bit disappointed if it's not. Because I want to watch stuff that's genuine and like real feelings and real people. Like, did you see the stuff in the Euros with like Southgate AI? And it was just like, he was just saying weird stuff.
Yeah, which was really funny. Like, from a comedy point of view, I'm okay with it. But when it comes to business, like, it worries me a bit, because I think that authentic nature of video content is so powerful.
So you could, theoretically, within 5 years, you could take if we did an episode a month of this, take all of them, put them in an AI engine, whatever, and then just say, make an episode about this, and then it could upload.
Oh, see,
that's very disappointing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's part of AI, which I still think somehow there will be. I don't know how, but I think with all of that, so there's the next couple of years, we're all going to see tons of AI generated video, AI generated faces talking. To me, I think there will be a way of showing that the content is authentic. I don't know how, and that authentic content will just be so much more powerful and so much more important than the AI generated stuff. I just think people will. It has its place, the AI generated stuff. Don't get me wrong. I think there's going to be tons of advantages for it. If you're creating training manuals and suddenly you can put them all online with someone talking and engaging, like tons of useful benefits. But in this age where everything's going to be created by computers, I think the authentic human-made content is going to be more important than ever.
People will be looking out for real stuff.
Yeah. I don't know how you... you have to hold a newspaper up with today's date on or something to authenticate.
Well, there's stuff on YouTube and Instagram already where you upload it and you have to declare if it's created by AI.
Yeah.
So I've got a YouTube channel that I upload every week, and I manage one for someone. So you have to declare if it's AI generated. But you can just, it's a button you have to tick.
Yeah, there'll be. I hope there is a way that you can see
between
between it, because there's some content I would happily consume, which, you know, if you're looking for a tutorial on something on YouTube, I don't mind if it's AI generated, that's fine. But there's certain things, I think in business, let's talk about like franchising in general. Like, I think videos in franchise recruitment are absolute necessity. Like, there is no way of building that trust with someone looking for a franchise more than watching a video of either the franchisor or even more so franchisees talking about their experience in the franchise. If that was replaced with AI, that...
Yeah, like one of the examples I always think of is like Ryan makes like his podcast all the time, and then people connect with him and like chat with him online. So he's making videos, making content all the time, and then they go to like the shows to meet Ryan, and they go there to meet him. If he hasn't had that interaction in reality, it's going to be a bit odd. They feel like they know him, and he has no knowledge of them.
Yeah.
Or like no one at Teslon knows who that person is.
Yeah.
Unless they've been given like a spreadsheet, like these people have said this and this to you. So I think people want that genuine interaction.
Yeah.
And that video is a like really good way of starting that. Like that's a good way of creating that content that people feel like they actually know you. Like I'm sure you've watched videos on YouTube or wherever where you watch it over a period of time and then you kind of feel like you've got you know them, or you've got a connection with that person. I certainly have.
Yeah, no, it does happen. I mean, like from a very small scale with content I've created, because it's obviously not viewed anywhere near as much as other things, but I remember speaking to a franchisor who I didn't actually know that well once, who said to me that his wife knew me because he would watch Whiteboard Weekly, and she'd be like, "Is that Whiteboard guy again?" And this was a franchisor I didn't know that well, but had a really good conversation with him and knew him for that. And that's the power of video, isn't it? And that, for me, that is the biggest point of creating video content, is people are building a relationship with you by watching the content without actually talking to you, which you can't replicate through text, images, pretty much any other marketing media you can put out there. And that's why I think video is, you know, especially in franchise recruitment, where there's so many franchise opportunities people can look at. If you can have really good video content and start that journey, and people are watching the content and building that relationship with you before they even meet you, it's a massive thing.
It doesn't have to take a lot of time. Like I think AI will make it incredibly quick, but like, if you want to make like good quality stuff as well, there's ways of doing it pretty quick without like turning to AI.
Well, let's talk about two things, I reckon. Yeah. So one, I'd be, only because I know you've been dabbling with this, it'd be interesting to know where it is from this point of view, especially for anyone who are creating their own videos. But two, so talk a bit about how AI is being used in video now, because I know there's some crazy stuff going on. And then maybe a bit about, well, I think it's more important, is the kind of video content that franchisors could be creating, what you're seeing working really well, and different types of videos, because I think there's huge opportunities to be doing more. Yeah. So,
how am I using AI?
Yeah.
So, in terms of video, I use it on YouTube to create thumbnails. So that's just like, not to create thumbnails, but to like improve the thumbnails. So like, I might have a picture and might want to extend it with AI.
Oh, okay.
Or
what?
So it's on Canva. You can just use that, or Photoshop. That like you can just like extend the photo to make it bigger. So if it's square, I want it to be rectangle. And then I'll leave the most impressive thing to the end. Descriptions on YouTube videos, use ChatGPT and then go over them and check them and like add stuff to it.
So I've done that, and I took the transcription of what people said on the video, then put it into ChatGPT and said, here's what the video talked about, create a YouTube description.
So I take like the notes from the scripts. So we've written a note, and then they sort of they create the video off the notes.
That's awesome, isn't it? Because that's one of those jobs that people tend to rush at the end of doing a video, but actually it's so important.
I hate it. And it's a really good, because it's got pumps it full of keywords and makes sense, and then you can add links and stuff to it, and make sure it's written in British English and no emojis, because then you can tell. I've used. Okay, I'll say the cool thing now, I think. So where I first used it, where I was recording a video and a car went past in the background for one bit of this audio, and sometimes you can like get that little bit of like that car going past and delete that bit from the audio when you're editing it. But I couldn't do that. It was still sort of sounded a bit weird. So what I did, I took all the audio recording, uploaded it to this thing called 11 Labs, and then I just typed in what I wanted the person to say, and then it like cloned their voice, which a year ago was a bit off. Now, scarily good.
Yeah. You showed me that.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely perfect.
Yeah. I think it's, from my experience, it's slightly better on female voices than male voices. But like the female voices, I've used it on for like it's just like if they stumbled over a word and I want to redo it without getting them to re-record it, it's like it would fool them. They wouldn't know. They'd listen to it back and they wouldn't know it was.
That is really cool.
AI. So yeah, I think that's really cool. But that's how I'm using it. I'm not using it to like make them say anything they didn't actually say. I'm using it to, if they were, like they fluffed a word or something, I can get them to say it properly.
Yeah.
And with their permission as well. Important.
Yeah. Well, I think AI is gonna. Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be interesting. Just even watching what it does from a kind of video point of view. But just talking about what franchisors are doing and could be doing from a video perspective, because I've got a few things which I thought I would see more of by now in franchising coming up. And don't get me wrong, I think there's some franchise brands that are using video brilliantly and really using all the benefits from it. But others that are probably not creating enough content. Like, what are you seeing that's working really well that franchisors are doing?
Where they're showcasing the work they're doing is really works really well. So I've done. Can I name names? Can I drop names? Right at Home I've worked with, and Fast Signs I've worked with, where I've gone to locations where their franchisees are working and like film with their clients. That works really well. Really powerful stuff, I think, because that's showcasing to customers and then franchisees as well. This is the kind of thing that you'll be doing. These are the kind of people you'll be helping. Especially like Right at Home's case, it's like quite powerful stuff, I think. And then with Fast Signs, it's like, that's quite cool that we can do stuff on that scale or work with clients on that scale, like that big of a client. That's quite cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's quite cool. And then with franchisors, I don't get a lot of this, but I think it would be quite cool to, like, if the franchisor wants to be like front and center, to see more stuff with them.
Yes,
I think that would be quite cool.
That is a massive thing. That we speak about this all the time about kind of personal branding, don't we? That I don't think there's enough franchisors putting themselves out there as the personal brand.
But when they do, when you speak to franchisees why they joined, they say, because when I spoke to so-and-so.
Yeah, and then that's always a big part why franchisees join a brand, because they're buying into the franchisor and the culture, and that's far more important than the actual brand of the business. But that the franchisees kind of get to that point as they go through discovery days and meet the franchisor, but they don't see it at the front-facing element of the marketing, do they? Enough, I don't think. And I definitely think franchisors could be doing more of that type of content. You know, if someone lands on your franchise recruitment website, they should be able to get a feel for the culture and the type of person the franchisor is, and start building that relationship passively from the start. And I don't think there is enough of that.
But when they are doing it, it's like, whoa, yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
so
it works really well.
Yeah.
What about the one thing that I always think is a missed opportunity, and I've always thought this in franchising, is franchise conferences, like filming at a franchise conference. And I go to a lot of franchise conferences, and you might get a videographer there who's filming the day. Yeah. So there's going to be a video at the end of what happened at conference. But that, to me, that's fine. But it feels like it's missing a trick, because you've got everyone in one room. Yeah. Like, for the one time that year, you've got all the franchisees in the same place. You've got all the support staff, the franchisor. And I know you've done this, but I think every franchise conference should have a little breakout room, and it can be a cupboard.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be
a bit bigger than a cupboard.
It's just a little meeting room, isn't it?
A room where you've got this kind of kit set up, and every franchisee has a 20-minute slot where they go into the room, and they could film all sorts of content. They could film, talking about their typical day in their life, talking about why they invest in the franchise, which could be used for franchise recruitment. But they could also talk about their business locally that could be used for their own customer marketing. And then you could overlay that with some of the things you're talking about, when you're going on site with franchisees. There's just so much content that could be created in that one day. Yeah. And if you try and replicate creating that much content throughout the year, you're talking about, 20 different trips to see different franchisees.
Yeah, I've only ever done like interviews at those conferences, and made like the overview video of the day as well. But I think it would be a good idea to have like the franchisor and the franchisee set down, or two franchisees set down like this.
Yeah.
Because how long we're doing this for, like 20 minutes. So if you had that like 20-minute, half-hour slot, you could have conversations like this and just sort of prompt them to say.
Every franchisee could come in and just have a 20-minute conversation with someone, and that content could be used in so many different places. Like that could be cut up into 20 different videos, and then all of a sudden, if you've done it with 20 franchisees, you're talking so much content. I always think that's a bit of a missed opportunity. You've got everyone in the same room for a day or two, and you could just shoot so much content.
And as well, on top of that, I'd always take a photographer as well along to that kind of thing, because you can get so much like stuff.
Yeah, well, even just headshots of franchisees and different things like that. So I always think that's a missed opportunity. And then there's another couple of things I think that I don't see enough in franchises. Like you mentioned podcasts. I think every franchisor should have a podcast, but the podcast doesn't need to be a public-facing podcast. But just even if you had like 8 episodes of a podcast where...
A limited series
where you're sat down with a franchisee like this, so someone, and just talking to a franchisee about them, not necessarily about the franchise, but just saying, what did you do before? What's your background? How's the business been? What was your first year in business like? Where's the business at now? How's it changed your lifestyle? If you've got 8 of those episodes that you could send to people looking, prospective franchisees, and it's actual franchisees talking about their life and their experience, that is mega powerful.
Because there's some people that, when I interview them, they're like very nervous because they're like, oh, I've got to turn up and sort of, do I have to remember anything? Do I have to think about like what I need to say? Do I need to know a script or anything? But if it's like them and someone they already know, and I'm just like, this is what you need to talk about. It's a lot more laid back.
Yeah, just chatting like this and saying, what's your typical day like? Like, since you've been a franchisee, what is your typical day like? And it's the answers to those kind of questions are the absolute key to franchise recruitment marketing. All of the gold dust stuff's going to come out.
What they did before and how their life's changed now is good as well.
Yeah, you don't need to ask them, when you signed up for the franchise, what was your week's training like?
Yeah.
Yes, it's important, and obviously within the franchise recruitment process, that needs to be, but just talking to someone about their life, that would be so powerful. I've seen podcasts, but the podcasts tend to focus on very specific parts of the franchise. So, like, how did you fund funding and support? But I think that would be really powerful. And then the other thing, which we've spoken about loads, which I've never actually seen come into action yet, is like a feature-length film documentary about a franchise. Yeah. Because I always maintain that if someone's looking to buy a franchise, they would watch an 1.5-hour video about everything to do with the franchise. They would sit down and they would have the other decision makers within it, their wife or husband or family, to watch that as well. Yeah. And you could have everyone on that video, couldn't you? You could have 4 or 5 franchisees, you could have customers, you could have franchisor, you could have support staff talking about all the different functions of the franchise. It wouldn't, again, not necessarily public facing, but something that you send to people.
Yeah, so when they get to a certain step.
Once they get to a certain stage and they've got this 1.5 hour worth of content, they can sit down and properly...
Yeah, like a Netflix documentary.
And it wouldn't be something you could create in once. Like, you probably could plan it out and say, right, this is a year project where month 1 we're going to speak to some franchisees, month 2 we're going to...
there might be particular days where interesting stuff's going on. So you go into the office then, or you go to this franchisee then, or... Yeah. So you could interview a franchisee in that documentary from when they start to when they're like set up throughout that year. That'd be quite interesting to see. Yeah. That could be a thread running through.
I think there is, but if you think of some of the franchise brands you've worked with where you shot tons of content over the years...
Some stuff,
you're probably not far away from being able to create that kind of thing. And I just think, if someone's getting to the end of the decision-making process and they're speaking to 3 franchise brands and one of them suddenly sends this like feature-length documentary about their franchise and it's got all these people talking about it and they can sit down with their partner at home and watch it. This
is what we want to do,
I think it'd be brilliant. So, thank you, Mark. I thought that was an interesting conversation. There's so much we can talk about. We're picking topics that are quite wide-ranging, aren't we? Yeah. Like, it feels like we could talk for ages. But hopefully, people would take some benefits out of that, and I'm sure we'll revisit video many times in our chats again.
We'll get other people in here as well, and we'll talk to other people as well. Yeah. That was good. I enjoyed that.
Super.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for watching the Franchise Marketing, or listening to the Franchise Marketing Show. We'll be back in another couple of weeks.
Cheers. Bye.